Ooh, does your stomach always hurt? Do you break out in random hives? Or do you constantly feel fatigue? Or do you feel sick after you eat? If you answered yes to all of these questions, then I highly recommend you getting checked for celiac disease. I was recently diagnosed, so I know the struggles firsthand. So today, we'll be making gluten-free muffins while talking about the history of celiac. Next, we'll be listing what we can and cannot eat while listing the ingredients. And then finally, we'll talk about cross-contamination as we bake. Celiac disease is often referred to as a gluten allergy, although they're completely different things. Someone with a gluten allergy has to carry around an EpiPen due to the fact that if they were to ingest gluten, it could be fatal. In my case, my stomach burns, I get incredibly dizzy, and I break out in hives. It also messes with my hormones, causing me to have anxiety, which has been one of the hardest things to cope with, but it's different person to person. Celiac disease has been around for more than 8,000 years, according to University of Chicago. It was discovered in the 2nd century, but wasn't identified until the 20th century. A person with celiac has a pretty strict diet due to the fact they go from not having to check any of the labels to having to check everything they're eating just to make sure they don't come in contact with wheat, rye, barley, or gluten. So today we'll be making gluten-free muffins made out of a few simple ingredients. We'll be using a cup of peanut butter, 2 ripe bananas, which I don't have with me at the moment, 2 eggs, honey, baking soda, baking powder, and some kosher salt. Oh, and we can't forget the miniature chocolate chips. When we're cooking, we must ensure that the bowl, whisk, and pan are only being used for gluten-free baking, due to the fact that cross-contamination is huge. Even a single crumb mixed in with our food can cause a person with celiac disease to react. In my household, we personally have 2 of everything. I have my own pans, silverware, cups, plates, toaster, and shelf space. So, if I accidentally were to eat any of the things I listed earlier, I would usually be sick for a few days with the symptoms mentioned before. So taking the extra precautions is usually pretty worth it. With that being said, let's get started. We will begin by cracking our eggs in the small bowl and mixing them until they're completely scrambled. After that, we will peel and mash the bananas and mix them until it's a complete consistency. After that, we will mix in our peanut butter, honey, and 2 scrambled eggs. Once we get that to what we want it to look like, we'll add in our baking powder, baking soda, sea salt, and cocoa powder. You should now have a good chocolatey mix. I personally couldn't use a mixer due to the fact that it's been in contact with many other things, so I could be at risk for cross-contamination. So I used a whisk. Although it took a longer time to get the consistency the same, by the end it was really looking like muffin batter. So, after you've gotten to what you want it to look like, you can begin to pour it in the molds. Leave in the oven for 20 to 25 minutes. After the 25 minutes have passed, remove from the oven and allow them to cool. You can choose to enjoy them on the spot or freeze them for later, like I did. This is a help to self. Being gluten-free can be very expensive, so by making these muffins on my own, I was saving myself some money. I can't cook or bake to save my life, so when I was looking for a recipe, I was glad I found the easiest one. It makes me feel better that more than 3 million people in the United States are testing the water on gluten-free baking. So I hope you learned something today about the history of celiac, what you can and cannot eat while listing the ingredients, and the dangers of cross-contamination as you bake. I hope you go home and try these simple muffins. Thank you.